Have you ever paused for a moment and truly asked yourself what lies at the heart of female sexuality? Not just in the obvious physical sense, but in the intricate weave of emotions, thoughts, and desires that shape it. Many assume that sexuality is only about the body, yet the truth is far more profound. Female sexuality is a multidimensional experience that stretches far beyond the physical act. It is an intimate dialogue between mind, emotions, and body. To understand this world is to uncover a depth that most people have never imagined. Picture this. You may have been with a woman for years, confident you know her in and out, only to one day discover that there are still layers of her desire and pleasure you have never touched. This is not about blame, neither yours nor hers, but rather about the way history, cultural norms, and centuries of myth have silenced or obscured much of what truly drives female desire. What if you could unlock those hidden layers? What if you could awaken sensations in her that even she may not have known were possible? That is the journey we begin today. My name is Karen, and if this is your first time here, welcome to this space where curiosity and knowledge meet. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you to do so now and click the notification bell so you won't miss the valuable insights we share in every video. I love hearing from you, so let's make this an interactive experience. If today's content speaks to you, type a 1 in the comments, and if it doesn't quite resonate, type a 0. Your feedback shapes what I bring to you, ensuring that the conversations we share reflect the questions and needs you genuinely care about. What we're going to explore today is not just information. It is a set of insights that can shift how you view sexuality, intimacy, and connection itself. These ideas are drawn from research, psychology, and the work of experts who have spent their lives studying the intricate relationship between women's minds and their desires. And I promise, what follows will not only surprise you, but could also bring new life into your emotional and intimate world. Let's begin with the first essential truth: the hidden power of female desire. For far too long, society has underestimated or mischaracterized women's desire. Often, it has been portrayed as weaker, less urgent, or secondary to men's sexuality. Yet this assumption could not be further from reality. Female desire is not only just as intense, it is also uniquely dynamic. Unlike the stereotypical view of male desire, which is often described as more visual and immediate, female sexuality responds to a web of factors that involve emotions, context, trust, and biology. Throughout history, women's longing has been restrained, minimized, or even denied, but repression does not erase truth. Beneath the surface, desire pulses strongly, waiting to be understood. Science reveals that women's arousal patterns are influenced not only by hormones, but also by emotional states and the psychological environment. For instance, during ovulation, when testosterone peaks, many women experience heightened desire. But just as easily, stress or anxiety can block that same energy almost completely. The message here is crucial. Fluctuations in desire are not personal rejections. They are natural rhythms. Imagine desire as a flowing current, sometimes calm, sometimes rushing, always changing shape but never vanishing. Once you learn how to read the flow, you can connect with it and even nurture it. The most powerful tools here are patience, presence, and genuine listening. When a woman feels recognized and valued, not just for her body, but for who she is as a whole person, her natural desire flourishes. In other words, desire thrives in the soil of emotional connection. Now let's move into the second key idea: the female mind as the most powerful sexual organ. While society often emphasizes the body, research consistently shows that a woman's pleasure originates first in the mind. Her thoughts, emotions, and mental state set the stage for every physical sensation. This explains why you might find that despite everything being perfect, physically, something still doesn't quite connect. The truth is, Female pleasure is inseparably tied to how safe, valued, and emotionally engaged she feels in that moment. Unlike many men who can compartmentalize and respond quickly to visual or direct stimuli, women often require a richer blend of factors, mental, emotional, and physical, to reach their full potential for pleasure. Sexologist Emily Nagoski, in her influential work on the science of arousal, reminds us that environment plays a pivotal role. If a woman is stressed, exhausted, or emotionally distant, even the most well-intentioned gestures may not bridge the gap. But when she feels trust and emotional safety, her body naturally follows her mind into deeper states of arousal. Neurochemistry supports this. Oxytocin, known as the love hormone, surges during moments of intimacy and strengthens the sense of closeness. This isn't just biology, it's the foundation of meaningful connection. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that real intimacy begins with creating an atmosphere of emotional security. The gentle conversation that dissolves her worries, the steady presence that reassures her she is cherished. These elements matter as much as, if not more than, the physical. In truth, her body responds most beautifully when her mind feels free to let go. This brings us to the third point, the differences between male and female sexuality. Though desire and pleasure are universal, the ways they manifest often differ significantly. Men, on average, can be more visually and physically responsive, while women's sexuality is more deeply influenced by context, emotional states, and even cultural expectations. For men, desire can often be sparked immediately by direct stimuli, an image, a touch, or a scenario. For women, it is rarely so simple. She may require the right conditions, a sense of being emotionally present, and a mind clear of stress to truly connect. Studies using neuroimaging have shown that while men's brains can switch off certain regions during arousal, allowing them to focus solely on the experience, women's brains often stay active, processing emotions and external concerns. This is why relaxation, trust, and emotional harmony are so essential. Another key distinction lies in how satisfaction is defined. For many men, climax is seen as the defining high point of the encounter. For women, however, while climax can be powerful, it is not always the ultimate marker of fulfillment. Instead, satisfaction often depends on how emotionally connected and understood she feels throughout the entire experience. The stereotype that female pleasure is mysterious or elusive is misleading. It is simply more layered, requiring attentiveness to subtleties. Understanding these differences not only deepens intimacy, but also removes the frustrations and misinterpretations that can arise when partners view desire through only one lens. If you notice that her arousal takes more time, do not see it as a flaw. See it as her unique rhythm, a rhythm that, once embraced, can lead to a richer, shared experience. Now let us discuss a subject that is often misunderstood, the female climax. Unlike the male climax, which is often seen as the endpoint, the female climax is not always linear nor singular. It can be varied, multi-layered, and deeply influenced by emotions and psychological states. For women, climax is not merely about a release of physical tension. It is a process that combines mind, body, and heart. Some women may experience multiple types of climaxes, each shaped by context, connection, and state of mind. Studies suggest that during climax, women's brains remain active in regions associated with emotional processing and release, making the experience profoundly tied to feelings of connection and comfort. This is why many women describe intimacy not as a journey toward an ending, but as a meaningful process where emotional closeness, touch, and presence hold as much value as the climax itself. Sometimes, the journey, the conversations, the affection, the sense of being truly seen is the reward. In fact, many women express that the emotional bond created before and during intimacy is what makes the physical experience meaningful. If you've ever thought of climax as the only goal, it's worth reframing that idea. For many women, fulfillment is found not in a single moment but in the entire shared journey of intimacy, free from pressure, full of presence, and grounded in connection. As we move further, we arrive at the chemistry of female desire. Behind the visible expressions of attraction lies a subtle but powerful network of hormones and neurotransmitters that shape desire. Testosterone, often associated with men, is equally crucial for women, influencing libido and rising during ovulation to heighten sensitivity. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, strengthens intimacy and emotional closeness during moments of affection or climax. Dopamine fuels the sense of reward and excitement, encouraging the pursuit of pleasure. Meanwhile, serotonin stabilizes mood, and when out of balance, such as during stress or anxiety, it can suppress desire. This hormonal dance highlights why female desire is never static. It responds to an interplay of biology, environment, and emotional states. When balanced, these systems create fertile ground for deep intimacy. But when disrupted, through stress, hormonal shifts, or even medication, desire can wane. Understanding this helps remove unnecessary guilt or blame. Desire is not always a conscious choice. It is often the outcome of a complex internal balance. Being attuned to this reality allows partners to approach each other with patience and support, nurturing connection instead of placing pressure. And finally, let us turn to psychological blockages, the invisible obstacles to desire. Even in strong, loving relationships, many women experience moments where psychological barriers interfere with intimacy. These blockages are not about a lack of attraction but stem from deeper factors such as stress, anxiety, negative past experiences, or cultural conditioning. Consider how daily responsibilities and pressures weigh on the mind. For many women, the inability to mentally detach from those worries can prevent relaxation, even if the body is physically present. In other cases, performance anxiety or fear of judgment may create an internal barrier, halting the natural flow of pleasure. The important truth here is that these blockages are not permanent. They can be overcome with empathy, communication, and patience. Sometimes what she needs most is not a solution, but reassurance, a safe space to express fears without judgment. Techniques like mindfulness, breathing practices, or professional therapy can provide valuable tools. But more than anything, open and honest conversations, where both partners share vulnerabilities and listen without criticism, form the path toward healing. Every step toward dismantling these blockages is also a step toward deeper intimacy. When we left off, we had begun to uncover some of the psychological barriers that can silently hinder intimacy, even in relationships filled with care and affection. To continue this exploration, let us dive into one of the most significant influences on female sexuality that is often overlooked: mood disorders and their impact on desire. It's important to understand that we are not just talking about a bad day or a fleeting period of stress, but rather conditions such as depression, anxiety, or bipolar disorder that can profoundly affect how a woman connects to her intimate self and to her partner. Depression, for example, is notorious for its ability to strip away the natural impulses toward joy, pleasure, and connection. A woman experiencing a depressive episode may feel detached not only from her partner, but also from her own body. It isn't that her love disappears or her attraction fades. It's that her mind is weighed down by a fog that dulls the ability to experience enjoyment. Research published in psychiatric journals confirms that depression often correlates with low desire, difficulties in reaching satisfaction, and feelings of disconnection that ripple into intimate life. Anxiety, on the other hand, creates a different but equally powerful challenge. When the body is locked in a state of constant alert, heart racing, mind overactive, fears looming, relaxation becomes nearly impossible. The very state required for intimacy, where the body lets go and opens itself to pleasure, is blocked by the nervous system's insistence on vigilance. For women, this can manifest as difficulty reaching arousal, inconsistency in desire, or even a feeling of emotional absence during intimacy. And when we consider bipolar disorder, the pendulum swings dramatically. Episodes of hypermania can bring sudden spikes in desire, while depressive phases cause it to vanish. This unpredictable rhythm can be confusing for both partners, sometimes leading to misunderstandings when, in truth, it is not about love or attraction, but about mental health influencing the body's natural patterns. What makes these disorders especially challenging is the way they affect not just the experience of intimacy, but also self-perception. A woman may begin to feel disconnected from her body, questioning her worth, or worrying that she is disappointing her partner. In such cases, support, patience, and compassion are not optional. They are essential. Knowing that the issue lies not in personal rejection, but in the weight of mental health, helps couples face these challenges with empathy. Treatment, whether therapy, medication, or lifestyle support, plays a key role, but so does honest dialogue. Simply acknowledging that desire may fluctuate due to mental health is a profound step toward resilience, intimacy, and connection. From here, we must turn to another subject often hidden in silence: female sexual dysfunctions. These are challenges that affect countless women at some point in life, yet they are rarely discussed openly due to stigma and shame. Dysfunction can take many forms, from reduced desire to difficulty reaching climax, or even pain during intimacy. Each of these experiences carries not only physical implications, but also deep emotional consequences, shaping how a woman sees herself and how she relates to her partner. One of the most common conditions is hypoactive sexual desire disorder, in which desire diminishes or disappears for extended periods. Studies suggest that between 10% and 20% of women experience this condition at some point, making it far more common than many realize. It is not about a lack of love or commitment, but rather a complex interplay of hormonal shifts, psychological stress, and even self-esteem. Understanding this helps shift the perspective from blame to compassion. Another condition, anorgasmia, describes the persistent difficulty or inability to reach climax. Though many women can and do enjoy intimacy without necessarily climaxing, when the inability becomes consistent, it can cause frustration and self-doubt. Research shows that nearly 1/3 of women do not always experience orgasm during intimacy, and the reasons are often layered: emotional tension, lack of confidence, fear of vulnerability, or absence of deep connection. There are also more physically rooted dysfunctions such as vaginismus, where involuntary contractions of the muscles make penetration painful or even impossible, and dyspareunia, where intimacy is consistently accompanied by discomfort or pain. These are not merely physical difficulties. They often carry emotional weight, making a woman feel isolated or misunderstood. The vital truth is this: dysfunction does not represent failure, weakness, or lack of worth. These challenges have solutions, whether through therapy, medical guidance, or couples-based approaches that focus on both emotional and physical healing. Open communication and non-judgmental support from a partner can make all the difference. Professionals often use assessment tools like the Female Sexual Function Index to design treatment paths, proving that with attention and care, these difficulties can be overcome. What matters most is that silence is broken, shame is dismantled, and intimacy is approached as a shared journey where both partners collaborate in healing. At this stage, it is essential to address one of the most persistent myths: the belief that female sexuality fades with age. Society has long painted the image of maturity as the closing chapter of sexual vitality, especially for women. But the reality, supported by countless testimonies and studies, is strikingly different. Female sexuality does not vanish with age. It evolves. Menopause does bring hormonal changes, such as shifts in estrogen levels that affect lubrication or libido, but these biological transitions do not signify the end of pleasure. Instead, they invite women into a new stage of intimacy defined by freedom, self-knowledge, and confidence. Many women in their mature years discover that, freed from social pressures or younger insecurities, they are more comfortable with their bodies than ever before. This comfort translates into deeper intimacy, where connection and pleasure may be richer and more satisfying than in their earlier years. Of course, adjustments are often needed. Penetration may sometimes become less comfortable, but intimacy is not confined to a single act. Foreplay, touch, affectionate gestures, laughter, and conversation can take on central roles, weaving intimacy through a broader spectrum of experiences. Philosophers like Seneca once declared that an unexamined life is not worth living, and when applied to sexuality, this means refusing to let cultural myths dictate the boundaries of pleasure. Maturity offers a chance to reinvent intimacy, to discover new rhythms, and to redefine closeness in ways that may not have been possible before. This stage of life can bring profound renewal, where intimacy becomes less about performance and more about presence, exploration, and authenticity. For partners of mature women, the key lies in understanding and openness. Physical changes may occur, but they do not diminish the potential for connection. They simply invite creativity and adaptability. A relationship grounded in communication, patience, and curiosity can make intimacy in these years more fulfilling than ever. In fact, many women report that as they age, they feel freer to express their desires without fear, empowered by experience, and liberated from youthful doubts. This is not decline. It is transformation. It is the unfolding of sexuality as an evolving journey that stretches across a lifetime. And this leads us to a broader, final reflection: sexuality as a lifelong path of self-discovery. Too often, we view sexuality as a fixed set of rules or a destination to be reached, but the truth is far more expansive. Sexuality is not a static quality. It is a living, changing journey that grows alongside us. At every stage of life, we have the chance to learn something new about our desires, our blockages, our needs, and our capacity for connection. From the first stirrings of youthful attraction to the wisdom of mature intimacy, the story of sexuality is never complete. It is always being written. The beauty lies in approaching it with openness, curiosity, and respect. When we understand that pleasure is not confined to youth, to specific techniques, or even to the body alone, we unlock a richer, freer way of living intimacy. The psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Knowing yourself is the first step to conquering the world." Within the intimate sphere, this wisdom takes on profound meaning. To know oneself, to understand your own desires, fears, and rhythms, is to gain the foundation for true connection with another. For women, this self-awareness dismantles myths and builds strength. For men, it invites humility, patience, and presence. Together, it creates the ground for intimacy that is not superficial, but transformative. This is why conversations like the one we are having now matter so deeply, because knowledge is power and awareness is liberation. When we release shame, challenge myths, and embrace the evolving nature of desire, we create a space where intimacy is no longer confined by fear but empowered by understanding. As we bring this part of our journey to a close, remember that sexuality, especially female sexuality, is not something to be solved or figured out once and for all. It is something to be lived, explored, and continually rediscovered. Each stage of life, each shift in emotion, each new layer of connection offers another opportunity to deepen intimacy. The key is presence. The key is respect. The key is the courage to approach the subject openly, without fear, without taboos, and with an eagerness to keep learning. My name is Karen, and I hope this message encourages you to continue embracing the path of discovery, both within yourself and with those you love. And if you found value here, I invite you once again to subscribe, share your reflections in the comments, and let me know where in the world you are joining this conversation from. This is not just a video or a discussion. It is a shared journey of wisdom, respect, and the freedom to redefine intimacy on our own terms. As we move into the final part of this exploration, it becomes important to look at the broader picture, how all these insights from desire and psychology to biology and life experience come together to shape a complete understanding of female sexuality. What becomes clear is that sexuality is not a single moment nor a fixed set of responses, but a continuous process that intertwines body, mind, and spirit. For too long, conversations about intimacy have been dominated by myths, superficial interpretations, or narrow stereotypes. But once we pull back the curtain, we discover something far more intricate and empowering. Sexuality is a language of connection, growth, and discovery that never truly ends. This realization alone changes how we approach not only intimacy, but also relationships as a whole. When we see sexuality not as a problem to be solved, but as a journey to be lived, we free ourselves from frustration, confusion, and the weight of impossible expectations. At the heart of this understanding is a crucial reminder. Pleasure is not simply about technique, it is about awareness. The truth is that no single strategy or secret holds the answer to fulfilling intimacy. Instead, fulfillment comes from developing emotional wisdom, listening deeply, and creating an environment where both partners feel respected and safe. A woman's desire does not switch on and off like a light. It ebbs and flows in rhythm with her hormones, emotions, mental health, and life experiences. What truly matters is the willingness to walk alongside her through these shifts with patience and compassion. This is not just about intimacy, it is about partnership in its truest sense. When both people in a relationship commit to seeing one another fully, not as perfect beings, but as evolving humans, desire grows naturally, rooted in trust and authenticity. One of the most profound lessons to carry forward is that female sexuality is as much about self-discovery as it is about connection with another. For women, embracing their own sexuality means unlearning the shame and silence imposed by culture, family, or society, and instead approaching their desires as natural, valid, and deeply personal. This process of reclaiming sexuality can take time, but it also brings immense empowerment. Many women find that when they learn to listen to their bodies, acknowledge their emotions, and accept their rhythms, they become not only more fulfilled in intimacy, but also stronger, more confident and freer in every area of life. And when a partner supports this journey, without judgment, without pressure, it becomes a shared act of liberation. Intimacy becomes not only physical closeness, but also a mirror that reflects growth, resilience, and deeper connection. To reach this place, communication is essential. The simple act of speaking openly about needs, fears, and desires can transform a relationship. Yet so many couples avoid these conversations out of embarrassment or fear of conflict. What they do not realize is that silence is the greatest enemy of intimacy. Talking honestly about challenges, whether they involve stress, dysfunction, or shifting desire, is not a weakness but a strength. It builds trust, dissolves misunderstandings, and creates a space where solutions can emerge. Imagine a relationship where both partners can say, "This is how I feel today," without fear of rejection or criticism. That openness not only makes intimacy possible, but also makes it sustainable across the changing seasons of life. We must also address another vital dimension: the influence of culture and society on how women view their own sexuality. Across history, female desire has often been suppressed, judged, or dismissed. From outdated moral codes to unrealistic portrayals in media, women have been sent conflicting messages: to be attractive but not too sexual, to be desirable but not demanding, to embrace closeness but not their own pleasure. These contradictions create inner blockages that can persist well into adulthood, leaving women uncertain about what they are allowed to want or how openly they can express it. Dismantling these cultural myths is a collective responsibility. As individuals, we can start by rejecting shame and encouraging open, respectful dialogue. As couples, we can commit to redefining intimacy not through external scripts, but through genuine exploration of what feels real and meaningful. Another powerful point is that intimacy is not limited to the bedroom. Desire, connection, and closeness are nurtured every day through the way we treat one another. Small gestures, a supportive word, a touch on the shoulder, laughter shared over a meal, lay the foundation for deeper intimacy. When a woman feels seen in her daily life, when she feels valued for her thoughts and respected for her individuality, her openness to intimacy expands. Too often, people try to fix intimacy within isolated moments, forgetting that it is built continuously through the quality of the relationship itself. Respect, empathy, and kindness are the invisible threads that weave desire into the relationship, creating not only physical closeness, but also emotional safety. As we reflect on the many layers of female sexuality, we cannot ignore the role of self-acceptance and body image. For many women, how they feel about their bodies has a direct impact on how freely they experience intimacy. In a culture obsessed with unattainable standards of beauty, it is no surprise that countless women struggle with insecurity, comparing themselves to images that are unrealistic and often heavily edited. These insecurities can create invisible barriers, making it difficult to relax and embrace intimacy fully. But when women begin to appreciate their bodies not for how they look, but for how they feel, how they carry them through life, and how they allow them to experience pleasure and connection, intimacy transforms. Partners can play a vital role here, not by offering shallow compliments, but by consistently affirming respect, admiration, and unconditional acceptance. Over time, this creates a safe space where insecurities soften and confidence blossoms. The journey of sexuality, then, is ultimately a journey of growth, not only for women, but for their partners as well. To walk this path is to practice patience, empathy, and continuous learning. Each stage of life brings its own challenges, but also new opportunities for discovery. Youth may bring energy and curiosity, maturity may bring confidence and depth, and later years may bring wisdom and freedom from societal expectations. At every stage, intimacy can flourish when it is grounded in openness, respect, and the courage to explore without fear. The greatest mistake is to assume that sexuality has an expiration date, or that it must follow a predetermined script. In truth, it is as diverse and evolving as life itself. And so, as we bring this exploration to its conclusion, let me leave you with a final thought. Intimacy is not a destination. It is a continuous dialogue. It is a conversation between partners, between mind and body, between past experiences and future hopes. It is never about perfection. It is about presence. If you carry one lesson from this journey, let it be this: see sexuality as a shared adventure, an evolving story that grows richer the more openly and respectfully it is lived. Do not chase quick fixes or rigid formulas. Instead, embrace curiosity, practice empathy, and honor the individuality of your partner and yourself. In doing so, you not only deepen physical intimacy, but also build emotional resilience, mutual trust, and a connection that lasts beyond fleeting moments. My name is Karen, and I want to thank you for walking through this journey with me. My hope is that these insights do not remain as abstract ideas, but inspire you to reflect on your own life and relationships. If this conversation has resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and tell me where in the world you are joining from. I love hearing your stories and knowing that we are building a community of people committed to learning, growing, and living with deeper awareness. And if you found something valuable here, consider sharing it with someone you care about. You never know who might need these words at this very moment. Remember, a single piece of wisdom can open doors that have remained closed for years. So let us continue exploring, learning, and connecting, not just in intimacy, but in every part of life. Because in the end, the way we approach sexuality reflects the way we approach living itself, with curiosity, with openness, with respect, and with the courage to grow. That is the essence of wisdom, and that is the invitation I leave with you today.